Today, we are going to do the review for the Topic 10 test. The test is almost identical to this review, just with different numbers. So make sure that you're really paying attention and understanding what we're doing, and circle any ones that you still have questions on so I can go over them with you later. Number 1. Margot practices her flute 1/4 hour each day. Write and solve an equation to find out how many hours Margot practices her flute in 1 week. It gives you a little chart here so we can see that 1 week is 7 days, just in case you didn't know. So for our equation, I'm just going to write it over here so I have more room. We have 1 week, which is 7 days. And if she practices 1/4 hour each day, then we need to multiply times 1/4. Now, since 7 times 1/4 is also known as a unit fraction, we just need to put 7/1 times 1/4. And we're going to end up with 7/4. And we can't leave it like that because 7 is greater than 4. So we need to fix it. So we have to see how many times does 7 go into 4? Well, 1 time. Put your denominator. And 7 minus 4 is 3. So she practices 1 3/4 hours each week. Remember that since it's asking for an equation, make sure that you have all of this down in order to get the full credit. All right, let's look at part B. Use properties of operation to find out how many minutes Margot practices her flute in a week. So now we're looking at the minutes, and 1 hour is 60 minutes. Therefore, we have to do 60 times 1 3/4, because that's what we got for how many hours that she practices. So if we're going to use properties of addition, we're just going to go do 60 times, and then we're just going to separate this into 1 3/4. So we're going to do 60 times 1 and 60 times 3/4. Here we have our 60 right here, and then we have 60, if we look at this, 60 times 3/4. And 60 times 3 would be, 6 times 3 is 18. So we're going to end up with 180/4. And then now we have to fix this, which they did for us. So if we divide 180 by 4, it shows us that we get 45. Just bring your 60 down. So now you have 60 plus 45, which is 105. If you want to do it your own way, you can just do it your own way and do 60 times 1 and 3/4. And then just do it the way that we practiced it. If this way is confusing, you will still get the full credit. So you can put 60/1, and then we're going to change this fraction. You're going to use your 4. And I know 1 times 4 is 4 plus 3 is 7. And we're going to multiply it. And 60 times 7, 6 times 7 is 42. And put your 0 over 4, because 1 times 4 is 4. And then you just need to divide. How many times does 4 go into 420? Well, 4 goes into 4 once. I know 4 times 1 is 4, where I'm going to end up with 0. 4 can't go into 2, and 4 goes into 25 times. So you're going to get the same answer, 105. So you could do it either way, whichever way you feel comfortable, but go ahead and take notes on both of them just so you have it. And you will be able to use this review for your test. For question 2A to 2D, choose yes or no to tell if 1/2 will make each equation true. So we have, these are questions we're going to have to work out. So we're going to do 6 times 1/2. All right, so let's put 6 over 1 times 1/2. We're going to end up with 6 over 2, which is our answer that we got. So yes, this one will work. All right, next one. We want to do 6 times 1/2. Well, I know that I'm taking 1/2 of 6, and 1/2 of 6 is 3, so yes, I know it will work. But if we wanted to work it out, we would end up with 6 over 2, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. So yes, it will work. All right, so next I have 7 times 1/2. So 7 times, I'm going to put 7 over 1 times 1 over 2. If I multiply that, I will get 7 over 2, not 7 over 14. So no, this will not work. And now it's asking if 7 times 1/2 will equal 3.5. Well, since I've already done the work, how many times does 2 go into 7? 3. Let me fix that because that looks like a Z. Should be an equal sign. There we go. That's better. So 2 goes into 7 3 times, and put your 2 and find the difference. 3 times 2 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. So yes, this would be 3.5. And half of 7 would be 3.5, so that also makes sense. All right, let's do number 3. So for number 3, Ben played at a friend's house for 2 hours and 35 minutes. He later played at the park. He played for a total of 3 hours and 52 minutes that day. How long did Ben play at the park? When I look back at this question, I can see that he played a total of 3 hours and 52 minutes. So, and it's asking us to find out how much he played at the park. This tells me I need to subtract. So, if he played a total of 3 hours, I'm just going to put an H for hours, and 52 minutes. Okay? And then it said he played at a friend's house for 2 hours and 35 minutes. I know I need to subtract that. So minus 2 hours and 35 minutes. Well, I don't have to regroup anything because I can subtract 52 from 35, meaning I don't have to regroup the hours. I do need to regroup right here, though, because I need to make this a 4 and make this a 12. 12 minus 5 is 7. 4 minus 3 is 1. And then 3 minus 2 is 1. So he played for an hour of 1 hour. He played for a total of 1 hour and 17 minutes. All right, moving on. Number 4. Choose numbers from the box to fill in the missing values in the multiplication equations. Use each number once. These are just unit fractions. So, if I'm doing 7/8, then I know that that is going to equal, remember our top number is our whole number, 7 times 1/8. A unit fraction has to have 1 as its top number, or as its numerator. Okay, so over here, we want to know what over 6 is going to equal 5 and 1 over something. Well, I know since it's a unit fraction and the denominator is a 6, the denominator is going to be a 6 over here. So I use the 6. And since 5 is the whole number, I know that's going to have to be the top number. All right, so far I've used 1, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, here on this one right to the right, I have 4 as my denominator, so 4 is going to have to go here. 1/4 times 3 equals, it's going to have to be a 3, 3/4. And then for my last one, since I have 2 as my denominator, I know that a 2 is going to have to go here, and my last number 8 is going to have to go here. Remember when you're doing unit fractions, so for example, if I had 5/8, my top number becomes my whole number, times my numerator is always 1, and then my denominator stays the same. All right, we are on to number 5. Chris found the product of whole numbers and mixed numbers. Draw lines to match each expression with its product. All right, with this one, you can either work out the problems, which you know how to do, or you can kind of round to estimate because only certain numbers are going to go with each other. So start with the whole numbers. So if we look at this first one right here, we have 3 times 2 and 2/3. Well, I know 3 times 2 is 6, so it's going to be somewhere around 6, but greater than 6. Okay, so we can work it out. So I have 3/1 times, if I'm going to fix 2 and 2/3, I know that my denominator is going to be a 3, and 2 times 3 is 6, plus 2 more would be 8. And I'm going to end up with 24/3. And I know that 3 goes into 24 8 times. So I know that this one is going to match the 8. Okay? If I look at 5 times 6, 6 and 6/8, I know that it's going to be greater than 30. Well, the only number on here that's greater than 30 is this one. So that one I can just draw a line to. You can check it if you want to, but it's not really necessary. All right, the 2 that I have left, I have 4 times 4 and 3/4. I know it's going to be greater than 16. And I have 9 times 2 and 4/8. I know that that one is going to be greater than 18. They're pretty close, so let's at least check one of them to make sure. So I'm going to do 4/1 times, if I fix 4 and 3/4 into an improper fraction, I know I'm going to have 4 as my denominator. And 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3 more would be 19. If I multiply across, I'm going to have 4 on the bottom, and then I need to do 19 times 4, which I'm going to do right here. I know 9 times 4 is 36. Regroup my 3. I end up with 76. So 76/4. And then I just need to divide. How many times does 4 go into 76? Well, I know 4 goes into 7 one time. 4 times 1 is 4. Subtract and get 36. And I know that 4 times 9 is 36. So I know that this one right here is going to go with this one, which leaves my last one, which is going to go right here. But in this case, I would double check because they are pretty close. All right, number 6. Select all the expressions equal to the product of 4 and 1 and 4/8. Well, I know that this one's going to work because we're adding 1 and 4/8 4 times. I know that this is going to work because we're multiplying 4 times 1 and 4/8. This middle one is not going to work because we're subtracting. This one right here, the one right below it, is also not going to work because, one, it's all whole numbers, and we're just adding. And if I look at the numbers of 4 times 1 and 4/8, I know that when I add them up, 1 and 4/8 plus 1 and 4/8 plus 1 and 4/8 plus 1 and 4/8, 4/8 plus 4/8 plus 4/8 plus 4/8 is going to equal 16/8. And then there's 4 wholes. Well, 8 goes into 16 twice. So 4 plus 2 is going to be 6. And when you add up these numbers right here, it's definitely more than 6, so they will not work. Finally, I have 4 times 1 plus 4 and 4/8. That one will work because that's using our properties. So if we're using the product of 4 times 1 and 4/8, we can break it apart by doing 4 and 4. So 4 times our 1, and then 4 times our 4/8. So I know that that one would work too. So this one works, and this one works. All right, number 7. Complete the multiplication equation that describes what is shown by the model. Well, if I look at the model, I can see that we have 4 times 2 6 because there's 4 of them. And then I can also see that there are 8. Let me highlight it for you so I can see. So there are 4 times 2 6 because there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. But there's also 8. I'm going to switch my color. 1 6. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's also 8 1/6. All right, number 8. Use a unit fraction and a whole number to write a multiplication equation to equal 7/8. Okay, well, if I have 7/8, that's just going to equal, remember, take your top number, and that's your whole number. So 7 times, a unit fraction always has 1, and your denominator doesn't change. So 7 times 1/8. Number 9. Juan is making cookies. He makes 2 batches on Monday and 4 batches on Tuesday. He used 3/4 cup of flour in each batch. We want to find out how much flour does Juan use. Okay, so if he makes 2 batches on Monday and 4 batches on Tuesday, I know that this is a 2-step problem and I need to figure out how many batches he makes total. So first I'm going to add 2 plus 4 to find out how many batches, and he has a total of 6. And if he uses 3/4 a cup of flour in each batch, all I need to do is 6 times 3/4. And that would be 6/1 times 3/4, and I will get 18/4. But I can't leave it like that because it's an improper fraction. So how many times does 4 go into 18? Well, 4 goes into 18 4 times. Put your denominator. 4 times 4 is 16. 18 minus 16 would be 2. So 4 2/4, or 4 1/2 cups. And with this one, we need to explain. So we can say that first we added 4 plus, let me find my plus sign, there it is, 6 to find out how many batches he made, and that's batches of cookies. Then we multiplied 3/4, and mine's going to look different because I can't type a fraction, to find, out how much flour he used, which was 4 1/2 cups. You make sure that you're able to explain in words, because a lot of times I see that you guys know how to do it, but if you don't explain it by using words, I can't give you the full credit. So make sure that you have this that I'm highlighting and that I just typed for you in your notes. Number 10. I thought I had my highlighter down. Which multiplication expression describes the fraction shown on the number line? Okay, so we're jumping and we end up with 4/6. So the only one that would work would be 4 times 1/6, because that answer, if we multiplied it out, if we did 4/1 times 1/6, it would equal 4/6. So it's the only one that would work. Okay, last problem. And make sure you guys study, because this test is a little bit more difficult than the ones we normally do. We still also have to do the performance task, so we're going to finish this first. Number 11. Lucas is making 1 dozen snacks for his team. He uses 1/4 cup of dried cherries and 2/4 cup of dried apricots for each snack. How many cups of dried fruit does Lucas need for 1 dozen snacks? Remember, there are 12 snacks in 1 dozen. We need to write and solve equations to show how you found your answer. All right, this is a 2-step problem just like we did yesterday. So we need to find out how many cups of dried fruit he used. So we know that he uses, whoops, I keep using that instead of my highlighter. Sorry, guys. Okay, so he uses 1/4 cup of dried cherries and 2/4 cups of dried apricots. So first we need to add those together to figure out how many cups he's using. Then we need to multiply that by 12 to get our answer. So our two equations are going to be, our first equation is going to be 1/4 plus 2/4 is going to equal 3/4. You don't have to draw bar diagrams. You can just write the equations. So this is how much dried fruits he's using for 1 snack. And he needs to make 12 or a dozen. So now our second equation is just going to be 3/4 times 12 equals. I'm just going to write it underneath so it's easier for you to see. Times 12, over 1. So 3 times 12 is 36 over 4. And I know 4 goes into 36 9 times. So our answer is 9. And we can just write he needs 9 cups of dried fruit. That is the topic test. Now we're going to go ahead and do the performance. Since I'm not going to be there, I'm going to go ahead and just add it onto this video. So go to the next page in your book. I had to make a separate video for the performance assessment. So when you are done with this one, check it over and then go to video topic 10 part 2 and turn to the next page of your book.